So let's briefly address what veganism is, because many people do confuse veganism and plant-based. And while yes, a vegan diet is plant-based, the philosophy of veganism has a far wider reach. A commitment to veganism means that not only do we not consume the flesh of animals, we also do not consume their secretions, meaning, of course, milk, eggs, and honey. We do not wear their fur or their skin, their feathers, or other fibers, such as wool and silk. We do not experiment on their bodies for research. We do not exploit them for entertainment purposes. That is because at the core of veganism is a respect and a reverence for all animals, both human and non-human. It is an acceptance of the fact that our non-human friends are here with us and not for us, not for our use and exploitation. They're here for their own purposes. They are deserving of a life where they can live, love, raise their families, and thrive in freedom and peace, just like each and every one of us. And they are deserving of our compassion, kindness, and justice. The one thing that we must understand and accept, and help others to understand and accept, is that being vegan or being a meat eater is not a personal choice or a matter of opinion, as many people do believe. The music we listen to, how we wear our hair, that is a matter of choice. My favorite TV show is my opinion. But whether or not to murder another sentient being is not a matter of choice, nor is it an opinion. It is social injustice that affects all beings. The exploitation of animals is based on speciesism, and it is very closely related to all other forms of discrimination, whether it be racism, homophobia, sexism, ableism. The right to freedom, happiness, and free will is universal and belongs to all living beings. I want at this point to read to you an excerpt of an article that's entitled "All Forms of Life Are Sacred," and it's written by Chris Hedges. I think it very nicely illustrates both the correlation between the injustice against animals and other social injustices, in this case war, and the callousness with which we are able to murder. And it reads, "Killing in our mechanized slaughterhouses is overseen by a tiny group of technicians. Machines kill animals, and in modern warfare, machines kill our enemies. Iraqis, Afghans, Pakistanis, Somalis are condemned like livestock from a distance. Hired killers push buttons. Slaughter at home and at war is automated. The individual is largely obsolete. The mechanization of murder is terrifying. It creates the illusion that killing is antiseptic. This illusion is sustained by state-imposed censorship that prevents us from seeing the reality of war and the reality of slaughterhouses. Killing has gone underground, and this has made vast enterprises of killing palatable." For those of us who are vegan, and hopefully for those of us who are about to become vegan, these social injustices are very easy to understand. It's logical, it's just, and it's ethical. So why does roughly 97% of the population not see this? Because the use and consumption of animals is so much a part of the economic, cultural, and political machines that govern our society. It is because it's so deeply ingrained in our culture that we're completely desensitized to the exploitation of animals. We have been programmed, in a way, to think of some animals as food animals, such as cows and pigs, chickens. Some are work animals, horses, donkeys. Some are research animals, mice and rats. When you see something done your entire life, you accept it. When you know something has been done for generation after generation after generation, you assume it is natural. When an entire planet, billions of people engage in a behavior, we think, can all these people be wrong? And the answer is undeniably yes. All these people can be wrong. So what are we to do? Be strong, Do the right thing, follow your heart, dare to be different, and dare to lead the way. For me, that means standing up for what I believe in, no matter what. There's a very short and simple quote that has been attributed to Albert Camus, and it is what guides my life. Stand on principle, even if you stand alone. But luckily, none of us has to stand alone because we have a wonderful and supportive community here, and we have the Vegan Pledge. So what is the Vegan Pledge? The Vegan Pledge is a 5-week program that is designed to give you the knowledge, the resource, and most importantly, the support that you will need to start you off in your first month of veganism. Collectively Free and Peace Advocacy Network have prepared for you a very exciting 5 weeks in which we will discuss and discover with our amazing guest speakers the many wonderful and compelling reasons to go vegan. We will discuss, which I have touched upon a bit here already, the moral and ethical ills of a life in which we exploit and cause harm to non-human animals for the completely unnecessary use of humans in all areas of our lives: food, clothing, entertainment, laboratory testing. We will discuss the devastating impact of animal agriculture on our environment and the sustainability of our planet, as well as the impact on world hunger. We will discuss also how our bodies are meant to survive optimally on a plant-based diet, and in fact how we can thrive into the level of athletic achievement, which apparently and obviously many proponents of animal-based living seem to think is impossible. And we do have 2 amazing and successful athletes who will address that for us. We will address also those pesky little questions that all vegans must deal with, like, are you sure you're getting enough protein? And we will get the basics on how to shop and cook vegan so no one has to scratch their head and say, great, now what am I going to eat? So, okay, let's break down a little bit what's going to happen at the Vegan Pledge. Today we're going to address for you a little further the environmental impact of animal agriculture. We will have some time for everyone to introduce themselves. We obviously have some snacks for you, and we'll pair off with our mentors and spend a little time getting to know each other. Our next meeting will be January 18th. We will meet at Fairway Market, and we'll split into groups and do a little vegan shopping together and then gather afterwards to share a snack. Meeting number 3, January 25th, will be our cooking demo. We'll meet at a Soho Loft where Michael Suchman and Ethan Cement of the wonderful cooking blog Vegan Moss show us how to prepare some amazing vegan meal ideas. Meeting number 4 will be February 8th, and we will have vegan bodybuilder Mindy Collette and vegan boxing champion, trainer, and coach Omowale Adewale, not sure if I butchered his name, I apologize, and Victoria Moran, certified holistic health and vegan lifestyle coach and best-selling author of 11 books. And our last meeting, February 15th, our guest speakers will be Kathy Stevens, who is the founder of the amazing Catskill Animal Sanctuary, and we will have Neil Segal, who is an educator, activist, and multimedia artist, who will speak to us on environmental impact. So that's going to be what our 5 weeks are going to consist of. But please know that changing to a vegan lifestyle is a journey. It is a learning process, and it is at times a challenge, but it also is a tremendous joy, and we will be here with you because we were all once in your shoes facing the same challenges, and I can guarantee you that it will be the best decision that you have ever made. So thank you again, everyone. And actually, one last thing I'd like to mention, that we have a donation of some books and DVDs and resources over on the table if you want to take a look at those and see if those could be helpful to you.
And there's a bag floating around that someone was trying to get rid of.
A bag.
Vegan briefcase.
A vegan briefcase. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so thank you, everybody, and welcome.
I want to touch a few points really quickly about what Carla mentioned, you know, that veganism is beyond what you eat. There's so much.
Okay. Yes, that's better.
There's so
Yes.
much more. There's so much more to it. So I want to break it down with you guys. Collectively Free put together a series of infographics that we're going to be sharing with you through Google Groups. We're going to put that together for you guys on Monday. So we're going to share a whole bunch of things together, you know, get suggestions, get questions from you, get, you know, everybody answering questions and putting up questions. So this is a series of data that we collected through a lot of research, and there's all the sources of links that you guys can check out. So these are all from, you know, United Nations or worldwatch.com and things like that that we just turned into this big infographics thing. Go to the other one. So as Scarlett talked about veganism, you know, veganism is also about social justice. So I'm confident that after this program, you're going to start understanding a little bit better about why veganism and social justice are connected. And I also hope that you guys think about the animal rights issue, which is a big, big portion of veganism, and that you find in yourselves that will and that desire to really speak up for the animals, because they are the real victims into this whole systemic, you know, violence that happens with them. So let's go through a few points real quick. I love this quote, which is by Albert Einstein, and it says, "Our task must be to free ourselves by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty." So just to touch real quick on the animal rights slide, just so for you to know, like, does anybody here knew how many animals are killed every year for necessary consumption? 70 billion of animals worldwide. That is, that's not a systemic, you know, violence against animals, I don't know what that would be, right? And when we talk about sea life, forget about it, you know, that's 1 trillion of sea life that's murdered unnecessarily for our consumption. And that's a very rough estimate, because it's really hard for people to keep track of, you know, sea life. I mean, we're talking about shrimp, we're talking about little fish too, so that's still a very rough estimate. And you can get all these resources and all the links to the official, you know, data, which I'm going to share with you guys. So let's go to the next slide. This is another quote that's very good. We talked about Margaret Mead. "We won't have a society if we destroy the environment." And you wouldn't believe how veganism and how you can help the environment by being vegan. So I'm just going to show 2 points real quick. Did anybody know, for instance, that animal agriculture is responsible for 51% of worldwide greenhouse gas emission? That's more than all transportation combined in our world. So let's say if everybody here decides to just, you know, bike for the rest of their lives, that still wouldn't be enough to, you know, help the environment and help the diminish of greenhouse gas emission. But, you know, when you choose a lifestyle that doesn't involve contributing to the animal agriculture, you already can make a big, big difference in that 51%, which is a lot. You know, so it's a lot of resources we're talking about here. We're talking about water, you know, talking about pollution, which we're gonna touch on the the 5th meeting with Neil.
Would you speak up just a little bit? I have trouble hearing.
Sure. The second part, it says pig, chicken, and cow waste has polluted 35,000 miles of rivers in 22 states and contaminated groundwater in 17 states in the U.S. So does anybody have any idea what happens to the waste of animals? You know, I mean, we're talking about 70 billion animals to raise on land that don't have a toilet system like we do, you know? So that they create these big lagoons full of waste, and sometimes the lagoons just, you know, just gets thrown into the river. You know, there's a million of things that can go wrong with that system. So that's just 2 of the things about the environment I want to touch up with you guys. Let's go to the next one. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? I love this quote by Martin Luther King Jr. So veganism is also about social justice, like we mentioned, and it's going to be much more clear to you guys as we go along. I just want to touch up with a few things on how, by choosing a vegan lifestyle, you can also affect the people around you for the better. So for instance, if everyone in the world ate like people in the US do, which is a heavy meat and dairy diet, only 2.5 billion people in the world could be sustained, right? Whereas on a vegan diet, the number would jump to 20 billion. You know, that's because our resources, say our grains, are being fed to animals instead of being fed to people, which I'm going to talk about this next point. But if all of our resources that are being used to produce meat and produce dairy are reversed to our consumption, we will be able to feed 20 billion people. What's the world population? 9 billion? Something like that, I think. So, I mean, you see what we're doing, a lot of things wrong, right? 82% of the world's starving children live in countries where food is fed to animals, which are consumed mostly by first world countries, so countries like the US, and the grain production fed to animals is about 1/4. And then this is pretty much what happens, right? We have children that are starving and dying of starvation when they could be easily be fed those grains. But instead that meat is coming to first world countries. You know, so it's a lot of things that are connected. Let's get the next one. Up to 50% of cancers are caused by diet. That is from the National Cancer Institute. I got this from this book over here that's also available in the book session that we got. Thank you so much whoever brought all those books, by the way. That was such a nice thing to do.
And it was from last year that those books were donated by a pledge or by a mentor last year.
Oh,
And
great.
She brought them back this year.
And she brought them back this year. How nice.
Thank you.
This book is amazing. I'm just finishing reading it. Actually, I hadn't read it myself. I'm in the end of it, and it's just so good. It talks about the farm agriculture, and touches a lot about the health issues too. So, if the National Cancer Institute is saying that 50% of cancer could be avoided just by diet alone, why are we spending these billions and billions of dollars trying to find cures for diseases that perhaps could be avoided just by the choices that we put into our bodies? Something to think about. Those who eat fish, when compared to vegans, have mercury levels up to 10% more. And that's another thing that goes back into the first slide and the slide about agriculture. We're contaminating our oceans, we're contaminating our lands by producing, this animal. So obviously our oceans are being polluted. Our oceans are in collapse, unfortunately. So that's what we kind of ingest, when we're eating those animals. We're not only ingesting the violence, but we're also ingesting all that pollution that comes with the procedure of raising them. Right? A Nobel Prize winner, Elizabeth Blackburn, found that a vegan diet turned on genes that prevent disease and turned off cancer, heart disease genes, and other illness within 90 days. That's something pretty wow. When I read that, I was like, wow. So that actually means that some of the major diseases, right? I mean, the US, if you think about it, the major disease is heart disease and cancer, followed by cancer. So think about turning those genes off just by what you eat. That's so powerful, right? So I just wanted to touch on a few points with you guys just to get you wow, there's a lot of things for veganism, right? So fear not, we're here with you, okay? And we'll take you through this process, and I just hope you guys enjoy the program, and let's have some food.